Raw News and Politics returns to the channel. Thank you very much, Wicked Foxy Dragon, for the suggestion. Hey, rejoice, Republicans. We found voter fraud. Let's have a look at it. We're finally getting to do this.
Everyone, welcome to the show. I have an update for you about a story that I shared a while back. Kim Fwong Taylor is the wife of Republican Jeremy Taylor. He is currently a member of the Board of Supervisors in a county in Iowa, and Mrs. Taylor was just found guilty of dozens of counts of voter fraud.
Ooh.
If you've been following the show for a while, you'll remember this case. Kim Taylor was indicted back in January on 26 counts of providing false information in registering and voting, 3 counts of fraudulent registration, and 23 counts of fraudulent voting after it was revealed that she was surreptitiously completing absentee ballots for other voters without their knowledge or consent. She also aided other people in doing the same thing with their relatives' ballots. Mrs. Taylor did this in the 2020 presidential primary election to try to help Donald Trump win, as well as with her husband.
Presidential primary, Republicans, it shouldn't matter to you. But because you are children, I know that it wouldn't have mattered to you if it was done to Democrats. Because Republican voters, you are immoral. I must point out that it was your own side that she did this to. Now, if you're the average Republican voter, then you're probably in support of Trump anyway. You probably have no sense of right and wrong. All that matters is that your side had somebody working towards your goals. But bear in mind, when Republicans do this, they make it clear that they don't care what you think about anything. Your support is only necessary to them for the time being. When Republicans, for example, cheat on a race that involves other Republicans, like the 2020 primary, they're making it clear that the moment you disagree with what they consider to be your betters, you will be tossed in the camps with the rest of us. You silly you silly fools.
At the time, her husband, Jeremy, was a candidate for the U.S. Congress. He was running against Republican Steve King. So Taylor's husband lost the primary in 2020. However, he was elected to the County Board of Supervisors in the November 2020 general election.
Oh, excuse me. It wasn't even the presidential. How silly of me to assume that they would only that they would reserve their cheating for serious matters. No. This was for her husband. She was cheating in the election for her husband. I assume at her husband's direction. I can't imagine it was done without her husband's knowledge. I wonder if his ass is going to be tossed in jail as well. Probably not.
And Mrs. Taylor committed voter fraud in that election as well. So the prosecutor said that she manipulated others in the Vietnamese community, and she either filled out and signed their ballots for them, or she tricked them into completing and signing their family members' ballots. So, for example, the prosecutor called 2 Iowa students. They testified that when they went to try to cast their ballots, this was in the 2020 primary election, they were informed that their ballots had already been submitted. Their ballots had already been cast. Now, the 2 students are Democrats, but they were told their ballots were cast for all Republican candidates, including Donald Trump.
So I want to talk to grown-up adults for a moment, genuine, real people, Democratic voters. We can't let these punks get away with it. I would recommend you inform fellow Democrats, anybody who is centrist, anybody who is foolish enough these days to say things like we need a Republican Party. This is what Republicans are. They can't be trusted. The Republican Party is just a criminal organization. It is all it is. It's all it has been in my lifetime, and frankly a little bit before that as well. In the late 80s, they had to sign a consent decree that prevented them from putting poll watchers in place because they took the ability of a political party to post poll watchers and used it as an excuse to post armed thugs at the polls to try to physically stop people from voting, to try to do terrorist acts using the threat of intimidation to affect political change. This is a criminal organization, and it needs to be gone. Any step you can take to kick them out, take it. But do not let your less informed fellows say something as stupid as we need a Republican Party. We need no such thing.
So it was later revealed that their mother, it's a woman named Huang Nguyen, she is friends with Kim Taylor. So Taylor apparently called Nguyen and she asked, hey, do you need any help completing your absentee ballots? So then Taylor went to her house and completed her ballot and then also the ballot of her children, her 2 kids. So Nguyen then signed all 3 and they were sent in. Now, Nguyen told the jury she had no idea that having Taylor complete her children's ballots where it was illegal because Taylor apparently told her, oh, no, it's all copacetic, totally good, totally legal, I can do this. And when the
If you're a Republican or you think you're friends with a Republican, just understand that's what they'll do. They don't give a solitary F about you, your family. They'll involve you in a crime without your knowledge. This is who they are.
FBI reached out to Nguyen and said, we want to know about Taylor and what's going on. Taylor apparently told her to lie to the FBI about what happened. So Nguyen also claims that Taylor told her not to tell her own children what happened with their ballots.
They'll tell you to lie to your children.
Person who testified was 86-year-old Hai Nguyen, no relation, but he also testified and he told the jury that Taylor went to his house and she took all of the ballots that he had at his house, so people that he was living with too, not just his. And Nguyen said that he signed his own election documents, but he admitted that the ballots of the other people with whom he lives appear to be forged. And according to a local news outlet, the prosecutors called additional members of the Vietnamese community. They also testified against Mrs. Taylor. And they noted that Mr. Taylor was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in his wife's charging documents. The reason being that Mr. Taylor appeared to have knowledge of his wife's activities. So, for example, he was waiting allegedly in the car when she went to pick up some of the ballots from some of these people. And he also made a very suspicious comment to a county sheriff when the sheriff was running for election in 2020. The sheriff was supposed to testify. He ended up not testifying, though. But he apparently told the prosecutor that Mr. Taylor said that he had a, quote, lock on voting in the Vietnamese community. And then Mr. Taylor also allegedly said that if the sheriff made a donation to his campaign, to Taylor's campaign, that Mr. Taylor could secure anywhere between 500 and 700 votes for the sheriff.
If you give me money, I'll give you votes. That's what he said to the sheriff. Did the sheriff then take out handcuffs and arrest him? Let me be kind to our girl here.
Anywhere between
500 and yada yada. That's a crime. He needs to go to prison, not jail, prison for that crime.
500 and 700 votes for the sheriff. So the jury spent 5 hours deliberating. They came back and convicted Mrs. Taylor. She has been convicted on 52 counts of voter fraud. She now faces up to 5 years in prison for each of those 52 counts. Now, as you've all seen with the January 6 cases,
Boom.
It's very rare that the judge orders consecutive terms of imprisonment for each.
Why? I'm sick of that. It's clearly not enough. It is clearly not enough. One thing we can do, one thing I recommend we do, is advocate for consecutive sentencing with these punks. The seriousness of the crime should be reflected in the punishment, and it has not been. We've been pretending like these people could have done this out of ignorance, could have done this not being aware of how serious things were. First-time offenders. Oh, it's just their first time. Oh, they're little babies. No, they knew exactly what they were doing. They were in a position to know how serious this is. They were involved already in the government consecutive sentencing from here on out.
Crime, and then they always give first-time offenders a break. So my guess is 1 year max. I know that's infuriating, but that is my guess here. It'll be a joke, right? But based on what we've seen with other cases, always involving Republicans, that is my prediction. And as I always say, Republicans think all Democrats are cheating because they know that that's what they're doing. They know that they are out there casting ballots in other people's names. They're turning in absentee ballots. That's why they don't trust absentee ballots, because they know they're doing it. They think they're these quote unquote good Christians. So yeah, if we're going to do it, of course, the godless libs, the godless left, they have to be doing it. If we good Christians are doing it.
It's so true. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when I talk with Christians and I hear them say, and I'm sorry, Christians, I acknowledge it's not all of you, but this happens frequently when I talk with Christians who don't consider themselves to be bigoted. They'll say, how can you live without any source of morality? I struggle with moral decisions all the time, and I have God on my side. And their confusion coming from the fact that they've been told and they never question the idea that me, a heathen, I have no morality. Well, when you get a group of those folks who think like that in politics, and they find themselves cheating constantly in order to get into positions of power. She's right. Their assumption is that the other side must be cheating as well. Obviously, there's no way. I mean, look at how awful they think I am. Look at how evil I am. Look at the horrible things I do. Imagine what these godless Muslims and Jews and all the other cabal of people that I see as the other, imagine what they must be doing. And they're terrified. They're simultaneously terrified and frustrated when their accusations without evidence turn up nothing. When they realize just how unpopular they are. That indeed, the reason they need to cheat is because they have bad ideas, and most people think they have bad ideas. Because they're bad people.
So, anyway, I will let you know when Mrs. Taylor is sentenced and how that,
etc. Yeah, Republicans are just a bunch of criminals. The Republican Party is a criminal organization. We should treat it as such. We should be vocal about the fact that they are a criminal organization. Somebody in your group saying they want to join that party, they want to be involved in any way with it, should be informed that they are planning on joining a criminal organization. Not a cool one. Not the mob in the 40s. The mob now. The mob now. A dying organization of swindlers and backstabbers whose only goal in life is to steal from decent people so that they don't have to do genuine work. That's all they do. Mrs. Taylor is going to be sentenced. We should at least voice our opinion that she deserves consecutive punishments. As in, after the first one is served, she then serves time for the next one, and so on and so forth. She should get a harsh punishment. There are 3 reasons why you punish somebody in the criminal justice system. Number 1, justice for those who were the victims of the crime. Number 2, to prevent the perpetrator of the crime from doing it again. And we never talk about this with Republicans, but there is a 3rd reason: to prevent this crime from happening again in the future. The 3rd reason is so that other would-be criminals, other Republicans, look at what happened and think it's not worth it. 4 years in office is not worth potentially 20 years in prison. The seriousness of the crime ought to be reflected in the sentencing. I don't care if this is the first time she ever broke the law. She did so intentionally and maliciously and deserves to rot in a cell for her actions. When I put up the VOD, I will have a link in the description for contacting the court. You should make your opinions on this matter known.